This novel can be summed up in one simple scene, a dinner party. For people sitting around a table, sharing a meal, and not much else happening, and yet, it's everything. It perfectly encapsulates what it's like to be an adult, catching up with friends you don't see often, meeting their partners, and sharing moments of connection in a world that sometimes feels overwhelming. This is Beautiful World. Where Are You? I could have recommended any Sally Rooney book, but this one just hits differently. It's so validating. Rooney's ability to capture the small intricacies of human behavior is unmatched. The book is about finding beauty in the everyday despite the negativity and big, looming questions about the world and about holding on to those small pleasures. One of the characters is a writer, and through her, Rooney explores why we write about things like love, relationships, and human miscommunication. These topics are often dismissed as trivial, but aren't they exactly what shape our daily lives? Why shouldn't we create art about them? The book also dives into deeper societal conversations about wealth, class disparity, and whether our ideas of working class still make sense in today's economy. And then it brings us back to the intimacies of everyday life. It's a novel that feels profound, relatable, and quietly brilliant. Oh, and the story ends during the pandemic. Yes, 2020 feels like a lifetime ago now. If you're looking for a story that captures the beauty of the mundane while tackling big ideas, this is the one. Now that we've set the stage for Beautiful World, where are you? Let's dive into the writing itself. Sally Rooney's prose is incredibly sharp and layered, so even a single scene can say so much about the characters and their relationships. I picked a section that I think really highlights her talent for capturing those quiet, intimate moments that make you pause and reflect. Let's take a look. She told him Alice was cooking dinner, and he followed her down the hallway, watching the back of her head and her neat, narrow shoulders proceeding ahead of him to the kitchen door. Inside, a man was seated at the table and Alice was at the stove, wearing a dirty white apron tied around her waist. "Hello," she said. "I was just draining the pasta." "You've met Eileen. This is Simon." Felix nodded, fingering the strap of his backpack as Simon greeted him. The kitchen was a little dim, with just the worktop light switched on and candles on the table. The back window was fogged with steam, the glass velvety and blue. "Can I give you a hand with anything?" Felix asked. Alice was patting her forehead with the back of her wrist, as if to cool herself. "I think it's all under control," she said. "But thank you. Eileen was just telling us about her sister's wedding." Felix hesitated for a moment and then sat down at the table. "At the weekend, was it?" he asked. Turning her attention on him with a delighted expression, Eileen began talking again about the wedding. She was funny and moved her hands a lot. Occasionally she invited input from Simon, who spoke in a relaxed voice and seemed to find everything amusing. He too paid a good deal of attention to Felix, catching his eye now and then and smiling in a vague conspiratorial way, as if pleased by the presence of another man, or pleased by the presence of the women, but wanting to share or acknowledge this pleasure with Felix. He was handsome, wearing a linen shirt, thanking Alice in a low, easy way when she refilled his glass of wine. The table was set with small patterned side plates, silver cutlery, white cloth napkins, a large yellow salad bowl, the leaves inside oiled and glistening. Alice brought a plate of pasta to the table and laid it down in front of Eileen. "Felix, I'm serving you last," she said, "because the other two are my guests of honor." Their eyes met. He smiled at her, a little nervously, and said aloud, "That's all right. I'll my place." She made a sarcastic face and went back to the cooker. He watched. When they had finished eating, Alice got up to clear the plates from the table. The rattling and scraping of cutlery, the noise of the tap. Simon was asking Felix about work. Tired now and contented, Eileen sat quietly with her eyes half closed, a fruit crumble warming in the oven. On the table, the detritus of the meal, a soiled napkin, sodden leaves in the salad bowl, soft drops of blue white candle wax on the tablecloth. Alice asked whether anyone wanted coffee. "For me, please," said Simon, a carton of ice cream melting slowly on the countertop, wet rivulets running down the sides. Alice unscrewed the base of a silver coffee pot. "And what do you do for a job?" Felix was saying. "Alice told me you work in politics or something." In the sink, a dirty saucepan, a wooden chopping board. Then the hiss and spark of the gas burner, and Alice saying, "Do you still take it black?" Eileen opening her eyes simply to see Simon half turn toward Alice where she stood at the burner and say over his shoulder, "Yes, thank you." "No need for sugar, thanks." His attention returning to Felix then, resettling, and Eileen's eyes fluttering, almost closed once more. The white of his throat, when he trembled over her, blushing, murmuring, "Is that okay? I'm sorry." The clanking noise of the oven door, the fragrance of butter and apples. Alice's white apron discarded over the back of a chair, strings trailing. "Right, we worked with him on something last year," Simon was saying. "I don't know him well, but his staff speak very highly of him." And the house around them quiet and solid with its nailed-down floorboards, with its bright burnished tiles and the candlelight, and the gardens dim and silent, the sea breathing peacefully outside, breathing its salt air through the windows. To think of Alice living here, alone or not alone. She was standing at the countertop then, serving the crumble out into bowls with a spoon, everything in one place. All of life knotted into this house for the night, like a necklace knotted at the bottom of a drawer. After dinner, Felix went outside to smoke, and Eileen went upstairs to make a phone call. In the kitchen, Simon and Alice washed the dishes together. Through the window over the sink, Felix's slim small figure was now and then visible as he wandered around the darkening garden, the lit tip of his cigarette. Alice watched for the sight of him while she dried the dishes with a checkered tea towel and stacked them away in the cupboards. When Simon asked her how her work was going, she shook her head. "Oh, I can't talk about that," she said. "It's secret." "No, I'm retired. I don't write books anymore." He handed her the damp dripping salad bowl and she patted at it with her tea towel. "I find that hard to believe," he said. Felix was no longer visible out the window then. He had gone around the other side of the house, or further back among the trees. "You'll have to believe it," she said. "I'm burned out. I only had too good ideas. No, it was too painful anyway, and I'm rich now, you know. I think I'm richer than you are." Leaving the salad tongs down on the wire rack beside the sink, Simon said, "I'll bet." Alice put the bowl away and closed the cupboard door again. "I paid off my mother's mortgage last year," she said. "Did I tell you that? I have so much money I just do things kind of randomly. I approve of you completely," he said. Her shoulders jolted up, and she replied, half joking, "Oh no, I'm not to be completely approved of. But you can approve of me a little bit." He was silent for a moment, wiping down a roasting dish with a sponge. Restless now, she glanced out the window again and saw nothing. The light fading, silhouettes of trees. "Anyway, she isn't speaking to me anymore," she said. "Neither of them are." Simon paused, and then put the dish down on the rack. "Your mother and your brother," he said. She took the dish up and started dabbing at it with a towel, quick hard little dabs, saying, "Or I'm not speaking to them. I can't remember which. We had a falling out when I was in hospital. You know they're living together again now." He had let the sponge float down through the dishwater to the base of the sink. "I'm sorry," he said. "That sounds miserable." She gave a raw laugh, scalding her throat, and went on dabbing at the roasting dish. "The sad thing is, I feel better when I don't have to see them," she said. "It's not very Christian, I know. I hope they're happy. But I prefer to be with people who like me." She could feel him watching her as she bent down and thrust the roasting dish noisily into the back of a cupboard. "I don't think that's unchristian," he said. She gave another trembling laugh. "Oh, what a nice thing to say," she replied. "Thank you. I feel much better." He retrieved the sponge from the bottom of the sink. "And how are you?" she asked. He smiled down at the dishwater, a resigned smile. "I'm all right," he said. She went on watching him. Glancing at her, he said humorously, "What?" She raised her eyebrows. Innocuous. "I'm not sure what the story is," she said. "I mean, with you and Eileen." At that, he returned his attention to the sink. "Join the club," he answered. She was twisting the tea towel thoughtfully between her hands. "But you're just friends now," she said. He was nodding his head, dropping a spatula on the drying rack, answering yes. "And you're happy," she went on. Finally, he gave a laugh. "I wouldn't go that far," he said. "No, it's the old life of quiet desperation for me. I am afraid." The back door opened and Felix came inside, stamping his shoes on the mat, closing the door behind him. "Beautiful evening out there," he said, and overhead the creak of footsteps, Eileen's soft tread down the stairs. Alice folded the damp wilted tea towel in her hands. They had all come to see her. For this reason they were all in her house, for no other reason, and now that they were here it did not matter much what they did or said. As we close, beautiful world, Where Are You leaves us with so much to reflect on. It's a book that makes you pause and consider the beauty of the everyday, the fleeting joys, the weight of friendships, and the vulnerability of being human. Sally Rooney has this incredible way of weaving the ordinary into something profound, reminding us that the small moments in life matter just as much as the big ones. In a world that often feels chaotic, this novel asks us to notice, to feel, and to connect. And isn't that what we're all trying to do in our 20s or any age, really? If you haven't picked up this book yet, I hope today's dive into its themes has inspired you too. It's the kind of story that stays with you, that feels like a conversation with a friend. Thank you for spending your time here with me. Until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep finding beauty in the world around you.